Hello students, Jinalisha welcomes you all on behalf of Saraswat International Academy. Today we will begin with the next part of the chapter Biomolecules. Students, we know that the biomolecules are the carbon compounds which are present in the living cells, right? So in the last lecture we have studied regarding a protein, right? In today's lecture we will be studying regarding the another biomolecule, and the name of that biomolecule is lipids. So lipids, they are also called as fats. The lipids are also known as fats. So fats and its derivatives, they are called as lipids, lipos, or also it is a Greek word. Lipid is a Greek word made from lipos, which means fat. They are the compounds of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, but the amount of oxygen is considerably very less. So they are the organic compounds, so they will contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in their constitution. But the amount of oxygen is very less in the composition of the lipids. The number of hydrogen atoms is much more than that of oxygen. So compared to oxygen, the number of hydrogen is very high. Now very important property of lipid is they are insoluble in water. Lipids are not at all soluble in water. They are soluble in organic solvents like acetone, benzene, alcohol, ether, chloroform, etc. So in what are they soluble? So they are soluble in organic solvents like acetone, benzene, alcohol, ether, chloroform, etc. So this is a very important property of lipid, that they are insoluble in water but are soluble in organic solvents. Some of the organic solvents are ether, chloroform, benzene, etc. They are the major constitution of the diet because of their high energy value. So they are very important components of our diet because they provide us with high amount of energy. So that is certain introduction regarding the lipids. Now let us study the structure of lipids. Now each molecule of lipid is formed by the combination of one molecule of alcohol with 1 to 3 molecules of fatty acids. Very important. So in the constitution of lipids, it is made up of two molecules, or it is made up of two things. One is alcohol and another one is fatty acids. So alcohol and fatty acids, they combine and result in the formation of lipid. Always there will be one alcohol which combines with either 1 or 2 or 3 molecules of the fatty acids. Now, alcohol is either trihydroxy alcohol, which is a glycerol. So, which alcohol it may be? Either trihydroxy alcohol or it may be a monohydroxy alcohol. Very important. Lipid किसका बना है? Alcohol with 1, 2 or 3 molecules of fatty acids. Now, the alcohol which occurs in the constitution of a lipid is either a trihydroxy alcohol, which is a glycerol, or it can be any monohydroxy alcohol. So, what is trihydroxy alcohol? A trihydroxy alcohol has 3 carbon and 3 OH group. So, what is trihydroxy alcohol? A alcohol or which is having the 3 carbon and 3 OH group. Say for example, these are the 3 carbons, and along with this it consists of how many OH group? It consists of the 3 OH group. The remaining free valency of the carbon is filled with the hydrogen. So this is the structure of a glycerol, right? So what is a trihydroxy alcohol? A 3 carbon with 3 OH group and the remaining valency fulfilled by hydrogen. And another alcohol is monohydroxy alcohol. Mono means 1. So a alcohol which consists of only 1 OH group is called as a monohydroxy alcohol. Say for example, this is a carbon which is attached to OH group. So this is what a monohydroxy alcohol. 2 कार्बन है, उसके साथ एक ही OH ग्रुप है, रिमेनिंग वैलेंस से फुलफिल्ड बाय हाइड्रोजन. Again, this is a monohydroxy alcohol. This is also a monohydroxy alcohol. This is also a monohydroxy alcohol. So, a alcohol which consists of only one hydroxyl, one mono means one. So, a alcohol consisting of only one OH group is called as a monohydroxy alcohol. Now, जो फैटी एसिड्स होते हैं सो दे कुड बी सिंपल फैटी एसिड्स. ओके, ये जो लिपिड्स होते हैं वो पीछे हम देखेंगे क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ लिपिड्स में जो सिंपल लिपिड्स और क्या होता है. A fatty acid has a carboxyl group attached to an R group. So, what is a fatty acid? A fatty acid is a compound which is having COH group and this COH group is attached to R group. अभी ये R group कोई भी मिथाइल ग्रुप हो सकता है. It may be a ethyl group or it may be another higher groups too. Are you getting my points? So, what is an fatty acid? A fatty acid is a molecule which has a R group, which has a COH group attached to the R group. This R group can be, so basically it is an alkyl group. What is an R group? It is an alkyl group. वो मिथाइल ग्रुप हो सकता है, वो इथाइल ग्रुप हो सकता है, वो प्रोपाइल ग्रुप हो सकता है. So, it is having what? A fatty acid has a carboxyl group attached to the R group. The R group could be methyl group, that is CH3. It could be ethyl group, that is C2H5. Or it may be a higher number of CH2 group, that is R group में कितने कार्बन्स हो सकते हैं? 1 to 19 कार्बन्स हो सकते हैं. Okay. So, number of carbon in the R group would be approximately 19 carbons too. Okay. So, CH2 group मैंने बोला कितने हो सकते हैं? 1 to 19. Example, the palmitic acid has 16 carbons including the carboxyl carbon. Okay, कितने कार्बन्स है? 16 कार्बन. 16 कार्बन यानी कार्बोक्सिल कार्बन को काउंट करना है. ओके, यानी COOH वाले कार्बन को काउंट करके C16 तक उसका स्ट्रक्चर बनता है. एंड आरेक्नोइडिक एसिड उसमें 20 कार्बन. अभी क्वेश्चन आएगा कि इधर हमने बोला कि 19 कार्बन, लेकिन CH2 ग्रुप 19 और एक COH ग्रुप तो बचा. सो इट इज arachidonic acid. It have 20 carbons including the carboxyl carbon. Okay, so that is regarding the general structure of lipids. Now lipids के अंदर क्या होता है? Alcohol and fatty acids. अभी ये जो fatty acids lipid में होते हैं, they are of two types. So, one is a saturated fatty acid. Saturated fatty acids are those fatty acids which are without the double bond. यानी जो carbons होते हैं R group. So, successive carbons of the R group, they are linked by which bond? They are linked by the single bond. The successive carbons in the constitution of the fatty acids, they are linked by a single bond. And hence they are called as the saturated fatty acid. अभी as they are linked by the single bond, दो कार्बन्स के बीच में कौन सा बॉन्ड है? सिंगल बॉन्ड है. सो as the carbons are linked by single bond, अभी सिंगल बॉन्ड को हम फर्दर ब्रेक नहीं कर सकते. ट्रिपल बॉन्ड हो तो डबल बॉन्ड में ब्रेक कर सकते हैं, डबल बॉन्ड हो तो सिंगल बॉन्ड में ब्रेक कर सकते हैं बाय रिप्लेसिंग दैट बॉन्ड विथ हाइड्रोजन और हेलोजन. बट यहाँ पे सिंगल बॉन्ड ही है. It means that they are not able to accept the hydrogen or halogen atom. क्यों? वो दूसरे हाइड्रोजन, अभी इधर किधर भी मैं एक्स्ट्रा हाइड्रोजन ऐड कर सकती हूँ. ये पर्टिकुलर कंपाउंड में मैं कहीं पे भी एक्स्ट्रा हाइड्रोजन ऐड कर सकती हूँ? नो. सो as the carbons are linked by the single bond, or you can say between the successive carbon atoms, as there is a single bond, this saturated fatty acids, they are unable to accept the hydrogen or halogen atoms. Two successive carbon atoms therein are linked by a single bond. On the basis of carbon atoms, they are of two types. अभी वो fatty acids में कितने carbons है On that basis, the saturated fatty acids are divided into two categories. One is short chain saturated fatty acids कि जिसके अंदर कार्बन कितने हैं 2 to 8. Example butyric acid. And another one is long chain saturated fatty acids which contains in them the number of carbon atoms will be greater than 8. Example palmitic acid, stearic acid, etc. So these are the first type of the fatty acid called as saturated fatty acids. Now the second type is unsaturated fatty acids which contains one or more carbon-carbon double bond. So what are unsaturated fatty acids? Either there will be the presence of one or more double bond between the successive carbon atom. Say for example ये तो COH ग्रुप है ही, अभी यहाँ पे C है, अभी ये C के बीच में डबल बॉन्ड है, यहाँ पे फिर से सिंगल बॉन्ड है, यहाँ पे फिर से डबल बॉन्ड है. सो ये वाले एसिड में क्या होता है कि जो कार्बन्स है, दिस कार्बन्स आर लिंक्ड बाय द one carbon or more than one carbons, they are linked by what? Double bond. As they are linked by the double bond, हम क्या कर सकते हैं? That bond can be replaced by adding either hydrogen or halogen. So they are capable of accepting hydrogen or halogen atoms by breaking the double bonds. Two successive carbon atoms at certain places are linked by the double bond. सेम जैसे अनसेचुरेटेड का क्लासिफिकेशन था. सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ नंबर ऑफ कार्बन एटम्स दे आर ऑफ टू टाइप्स. सेचुरेटेड फैटी एसिड जिसमें शॉर्ट चेन फैटी एसिड्स, एग्जाम्पल इज नंबर ऑफ कार्बन एटम विल बी 2 to 8. एग्जाम्पल इज क्रोटोनिक एसिड. And long chain fatty acids which contains the carbon greater than 8. The example is oleic acid. Fatty acids having more than one double bond between the two successive carbon atoms are called as polyunsaturated fatty acid. Those unsaturated fatty acid के जिसमें डबल बॉन्ड मोर देन वन है, यानी मोर देन वन जो डबल बॉन्ड होते हैं कार्बन एटम्स के बीच में, सो उसमें अगर एक से ज़्यादा डबल बॉन्ड हुए देन सच unsaturated fatty acids are called as polyunsaturated fatty acids. See students, here you can see the structure of various fatty acids. The first one is the palmitic acid जिसमें 16 carbon है. Second one is stearic acid which contains 18 carbon, and last is oleic acid which contains again 18 carbons. सो यहाँ पे देखो कार्बन कार्बन के बीच में ऑलवेज कौन सा बॉन्ड है? सिंगल बॉन्ड. यहाँ पे भी आप पूरे स्ट्रक्चर में देख सकते हो कार्बन कार्बन आर लिंक्ड बाय सिंगल बॉन्ड. हियर देर इज वन कार्बन विच इज हैविंग अ डबल बॉन्ड बिटवीन देम. सो दिस इज विच टाइप ऑफ फैटी एसिड्स? अनसैचुरेटेड. बट दिस टू आर द सैचुरेटेड टाइप्स ऑफ द फैटी एसिड्स. नाउ क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ लिपिड्स. Lipids are further classified into three types: simple lipids, complex or conjugated lipids, steroid or derived lipids. Of that, the simple lipids are further divided into glycerides and waxes, and glycerides are further divided into fats and oils. So let us study them. So first of all, the simple lipids. So what are simple lipids? Those lipids which are formed of one molecule of alcohol and 1 to 3 molecules of fatty acids are called simple lipids. Simple lipids जो normal lipids होते हैं कि एक alcohol रहेगा and that alcohol is linked with either 1, 2 or 3 molecules of fatty acids. So basically we can say they are the esters of fatty acids with various alcohol. What are simple lipids? They are the esters of the fatty acids with the various alcohols. Now, these are further divided into two types. One is glycerides or neutral or true fats. The glycerides are also called as neutral or true fats, and another one is the waxes. So, first of all, the neutral or true fats. So, they are the esters of fatty acids with glycerol. Very, very, very important. जो ग्लिसराइड्स है या न्यूट्रल और ट्रू फेट्स हम जिसको बोलते हैं, उसमें ऑलवेज अल्कोहल कौन सा होगा? ग्लिसरॉल होगा, राइट? वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट. In the glyceride, name itself suggests glyceride. So always the alcohol will be a glycerol. Okay. So they are the esters of fatty acid. Fatty acid will be linked with which alcohol? It will be linked always with the glycerol. They are also called as glycerides. A true fat having 3 molecules of fatty acid is called as 3-glyceride. Yani 3 fatty acid plus the glycerol is called as the triglyceride. Okay. The 3 molecules of fatty acid when linked with 1 glycerol molecule, it is called as a triglyceride. They are the most common lipids in the cell. Very very important. The triglycerides are the most common lipids present in the living cell. Now, that glyceride which have 2 molecules of fatty acid and 1 molecule of glyceride is called as a diglyceride, and 1 molecule of fatty acid and 1 molecule of glycerol, it is called as the monoglyceride. Very 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 important. Lipid which have 3 molecules of fatty acid and 1 glycerol, it is called triglyceride. 2 fatty acid and 1 glycerol, diglyceride. 1 fatty acid and a glycerol, it is called as a monoglyceride. Now, इसमें से जो डाइग्लिसराइड्स है एंड ट्राइग्लिसराइड्स जो मोनोग्लिसराइड्स एंड जो डाइग्लिसराइड्स होते हैं, दे आर not as common as the triglyceride. The monoglycerides and the triglycerides are not very common as the triglyceride. So, a fat having 1 or 2 fatty acid molecule is termed as the monoglyceride or a diglyceride. They occur as intermediates in biosynthetic reactions. So, basically they occur normally as intermediates. Say for example, ट्राइग्लिसराइड्स का डाइजेशन होने वाला है. सो ट्राइग्लिसराइड पहले किस में कन्वर्ट होगा? डाइग्लिसराइड. डाइग्लिसराइड फिर से किस में कन्वर्ट होगा? मोनोग्लिसराइड. एंड मोनोग्लिसराइड फिर किस में कन्वर्ट हो जाएंगे? फैटी एसिड एंड अल्कोहल. सो बेसिकली दे अकर एज द इंटरमीडिएट्स इन द बायोकेमिकल रिएक्शंस. क्लियर? सो दैट इज रिगार्डिंग द ट्रू फैट्स. अभी देखते हैं ट्राइग्लिसराइड. आई टोल्ड यू द मोस्ट कॉमन simple lipids present in the living cells are the triglyceride. So, let us study regarding the triglycerides. In a formation of triglyceride, 1 molecule of glycerol gets linked with 3 molecule of any fatty acid by ester bond. कौन सा bond बनता है? That is very 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 important. So, the bond formed is the ester bond. 3 molecules of the fatty acids. What is triglyceride? नाम से ही याद रखो. ट्राई यानी 3 molecules of fatty acid plus 1 molecule of a glycerol. It is called as what? It is called as a triglyceride. उनके बीच में कौन सा बॉन्ड है? एस्टर बॉन्ड. द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द एस्टर बॉन्ड इज COOC. By the process of dehydration releasing 3 molecules of water. ओके, ये जो रिएक्शन है फैटी एसिड और ग्लिसरॉल के बीच में डिहाइड्रेशन रिएक्शन है. नाम से ही मालूम पड़ता है डिहाइड्रेशन, दैट इज रिमूवल ऑफ द वाटर. सो इन दिस रिएक्शन 3 molecules ऑफ द वाटर आर रिलीज्ड. नाउ ये बॉन्ड बनता किसके बीच में है? Each fatty acid molecule binds to the OH group of trihydroxy alcohol glycerol through its COOH group. So, COH group of the fatty acid binds with the OH group of the alcohol and it forms the triglyceride molecule. अभी देखो ये glycerol का formula है, right? This is a glycerol. Glycerol contains 3 carbon, 3 OH group and the remaining valency are fulfilled by hydrogen. And here how many fatty acids molecule? We are taking 3. So, COOH R1, COOH R2, COOH R3 ये 3 fatty acids है. अभी फैटी एसिड्स का COOH ग्रुप बाइंड्स विद द OH ग्रुप ऑफ द ग्लिसरॉल. सो ईच एंड एवरी फैटी एसिड के COH ग्रुप में से OH निकालना है एंड जो OH ग्रुप है अल्कोहल का, इसका हाइड्रोजन निकाल दो. तो ये एक मॉलिक्यूल वाटर का रिलीज हुआ, ये दूसरा रिलीज हुआ एंड दिस इज द थर्ड. एंड देन ये जो रिमूव हुआ उसके बीच में हमें क्या दिखा देने का है, बॉन्ड. सो CH2COOC. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज व्हाट, एस्टर बॉन्ड. Dehydration reaction, 3 molecules of the water are released. So this is how a triglyceride is formed. यहाँ पर भी आप देख सकते हो, this is a glycerol, these are the 3 molecules of fatty acid, there is a removal. ये इसका H, so basically इसका H and इसका OH, this is the removal of the water, right? And this is how the bond is formed. Clear? COOC, that is called as the ester bond. So this is a triglyceride. Now students, ये जो triglycerides है, they are further divided into 2 categories. One is fats and another one is the oil. So fats, they are the solid at room temperature. So fats, they occur as the they are solid, okay, at room temperature they occur as solid. All the fatty acids in its composition are saturated. Okay, fats and oils में difference क्या है? पहला difference ये है कि fats are solid at room temperature. अभी ट्राइग्लिसराइड में जो फैटी एसिड्स होते हैं, सो फैट्स में जो फैटी एसिड्स होने वाले हैं वो सब कैसे होने वाले हैं, सेचुरेटेड फैटी एसिड्स. एंड नॉर्मली दे आर लॉन्ग चेन सेचुरेटेड फैटी एसिड्स. एग्जाम्पल इज बटर, घी, एनिमल फैट, वेजिटेबल घी, एक्सेट्रा. Oils, they are liquids at room temperature. 1, 2 or all the 3 fatty acids in its composition are short or long chain unsaturated fatty acids. Okay, triglyceride में कितने fatty acids होते हैं, 3 fatty acids. जब हम फैट की बात करते हैं तो वो तीनों 3 फैटी एसिड्स कैसे होते हैं, सेचुरेटेड. बट जब हम ऑयल की बात करते हैं तो ऑयल में टोटल 3 सेचुरेटेड फैटी टोटल 3 फैटी एसिड्स होते हैं. ये 3 फैटी एसिड में से आइदर 1 और 2 और ऑल द 3 फैटी एसिड्स आर ऑफ अनसेचुरेटेड टाइप. ओके, द एग्जाम्पल इज ग्राउंडनट ऑयल, कोकोनट ऑयल, फिश लिवर ऑयल, एक्सेट्रा. So that is regarding the triglyceride. Now second type of the simple lipids are waxes. So in the structure of wax, an alcohol molecule is not glycerol but some monohydroxy alcohol. So difference क्या है, जब हमने ग्लिसराइड की बात की थी या सिंपल न्यूट्रल फैट्स की बात की थी तो उसमें ऑलवेज अल्कोहल कौन सा था, ग्लिसरॉल. जबकि वैक्सेस में इट इज़ नॉट ग्लिसरॉल बट एनी मोनोहाइड्रोक्सी अल्कोहल. One molecule of monohydroxy alcohol is linked with one molecule of long chain saturated fatty acid. So what is wax? One monohydroxy alcohol plus one long chain saturated fatty acid. Okay, so that is a composition of a wax, a long chain saturated fatty acid and a alcohol other than a glycerol. Now the second types of the lipids are complex lipids or conjugated lipids. So those lipids which contain a non-lipid constituent in addition to alcohol and fatty acids are called complex lipid. Okay, lipids किसका बना है, एक तो अल्कोहल होता है और एक फैटी एसिड. सो कोई भी लिपिड में ये दो कंपोनेंट के अलावा कोई दूसरा मॉलिक्यूल प्रेजेंट हो, so those lipids which contain a non-lipid component, that is a component other than alcohol and fatty acid, then such lipids are called as complex lipids. So they are named after a non-lipid component. Example, glycolipid, glyco glucose से related है, so a non-lipid component is a carbohydrate. Phospholipid नाम से ही मालूम पड़ता है कि non-lipid component क्या है, phosphate. And lipoprotein, a non-lipid component is a protein. So those lipids which contain a non-lipid component along with the lipid component, that is alcohol and fatty acid के अलावा कोई दूसरा molecule present है lipid के constitution में, then such lipids are called as the complex lipids or conjugated lipids. Lastly, the derived lipids or the steroids. So they are derived from simple or conjugated lipids. The steroids are the lipids which do not contain fatty acids. इसमें fatty acids रहेंगे नहीं. Now steroid molecules which contain only hydroxyl, that is OH group, but do not contain the carboxyl group. देखो इसमें fatty acids नहीं है, यानी क्या है, सिर्फ हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप है, COH ग्रुप नहीं है या कीटो ग्रुप नहीं है. Then such steroids are called as sterols. So steroid without COH group or keto group but having the hydroxyl group, they are called as the sterol. The example is cholesterol, ergosterol, etc. There are cortisone, progesterone, which are the steroid hormones found in the animals which have only carboxyl or keto group. Okay, steroids के अंदर acidic group नहीं है, right? But there are certain hormones steroid nature कि जिसमें सिर्फ कार्बोक्सिल और कीटो ग्रुप होता है. सो दैट इज द डिराइव्ड लिपिड्स और द स्टेरॉइड्स. लास्टली आपकी बुक में जो दिया है, सिंपल लिपिड इज ग्लिसरॉल विच इज ट्राईहाइड्रोक्सी प्रोपेन. ट्राईहाइड्रोक्सी, ट्राई प्रोपेन यानी 3 एंड हाइड्रोक्सी यानी 3 OH group. Many lipids have both glycerol and fatty acids. Here the fatty acids are found esterified with glycerol, यानी उनके बीच में fatty acid और glycerol के बीच में कौन सा बॉन्ड है, ester bond. They can be monoglyceride, diglyceride and triglyceride. These are also called fats and oils based on melting point. Oils have lower melting point, that is example gingerly oil, and hence they remain as oil in winters, whereas some lipids have phosphorus and a phosphorylated organic compound in them which is known as phospholipid. Normally they are found in cell membrane. Example is the lecithin. The example of phospholipid is lecithin. Some tissues, especially the neural tissues, have lipids with more complex structure. So that is regarding the lipids. I end my lecture here. In the next lecture, we will study some other biomolecule. Thank you, students.